your view regarding women not being women doesn't have to wear the hijab. They can go to the mosque. These are sort of, in a way, quite a minority view in terms of the whole Muslim tradition. Feels like the whole
Right.
Muslim tradition for 1400 years had the similar views as we have today. So how much is
Yes.
that consensus valuable in like understanding true Islam?
So first of all, that consensus has no value because the Quran or the Sunnah never regarded what majority people do. In fact, when it criticized the Quraysh, it said that you are following the religion of your forefathers, even if they are in majority. That doesn't mean that you are right. Your test is not to follow the majority. Your test is to follow your intellect and your own understanding. If you think that scholars of the past were correct, then that is fine. You don't have to, I mean, make any change. Just follow them. So you see, it's not the question of being different. It's the question of following your own understanding of religion. That is your test, and that is how we should proceed. And the reason that a lot of things that we believe here are different, maybe that you might be hearing from me or people like me, is that for a very long time, maybe centuries, uh, there's this concept of taqleed, which means you blindly follow the verdict of an imam, even if you're a scholar, and instead of understanding things on the basis of reasoning, you do so on the basis of emotions. So it's like you must have heard of this term iman bil ghaib, which has been erroneously translated as a blind faith. So basically, it is this attitude of blind faith in which you just, without understanding what you're doing, you just follow your forefathers, and that has been happening for centuries. And whenever some person says that, why are you doing this? I mean, this doesn't seem logical, or maybe it seems against the Quran, or it seems to be a cultural practice, then that voice is snubbed, and you don't get any I mean any criticism. They don't tolerate any criticism, and they think that whatever has been understood once and for all is the final word. Whereas had this been the case, the Quran would have clearly said that, well, you follow the majority. Whatever the majority says, that's the right thing. The Quran never said that. It says that every person is to follow what he or she understands to be correct. It should not be a blind understanding of religious facts. It should be a intellectual understanding. You should know what you are doing and then proceed. So that is why for centuries people are maybe towing the same line, because they have been trained not to think and question. They have been trained to blindly follow what was, let's say, interpreted a thousand years ago. So they're just following that line without understanding or giving their minds to it. So that is why. So today, when we start giving our minds to these problems or these questions and we come up with different answers, then people think that, well, you are different from others. Well, we would tell them that, well, this difference is just because we are trying to apply our mind and intellect, which is something which God has said. Remember, God has said that this book has been revealed to you so that you can reflect and deliberate. And then at one instance, it has said that people who end up in hell would be there because they did not use their intellect, and they did not understand the message, and they just blindly went over it or rejected it. So I think it is this attitude of blind following, it is this attitude of emotional attachment with religion and not an intellectual attachment with religion that has accounted for the same opinion being followed for centuries without being questioned. Because remember, those opinions are human interpretations; they are not God's interpretations. I mean, if a person has is giving you a certain interpretation, remember it is his or her interpretation. Could be right, could be wrong, and if you don't challenge it, it's just going to go along, and it will travel through those centuries. And this is what has happened. So if you're aware of our approach, which is the something that was started by 100 years ago by a person called Ustaz Hamiduddin Farahi, he actually was a gigantic person regarding his intellect. He was a cousin of the famous theologian Shibli Nomani. You might have heard of his name. So he is the person who said that, well, this is a wrong line that we are towing. We're just blindly going over things. We must need to understand, must apply our minds. So he is the person who made this turn or tried to make this turn, and I would say talk sense into the minds of people. He lived in India. He died in 1930, and then from him onwards, we find the torch of his message being transferred to some of the next generations. And today, while we are sitting here and talking to you, basically we are in the fourth generation. And after Ustaz Hamiduddin Farahi and his pupil Ustaz Amin Hassan Islahi, and then of course his pupil Ustaz Javed Ahmad Ghamidi, who you might be knowing, who has visited Australia also, and who's still, mashallah, living and delivering his work, and I mean, doing his work and delivering lectures. So, and after him, some of his students are also continuing with this work. So, this is a line that you find amongst our people like us, because we have challenged the status quo, which means that we challenge this attitude of intellectual stagnation, of blindly accepting things. And the answer to this is that we will re-examine, we will re-evaluate things. It's not that we are fond of changing opinions, just that we would like to search for the truth. And if we find some opinion of the past authority is not in conformity with the truth, it is our responsibility to find out the truth. So basically, it's like that critical thinking process being revived in the last 100 years. So because of that lack of critical thinking, we were just blindly following some particular interpretations. So that is why you find the scholars of the Farai school having at times different opinions from the rest of the Ummah, because they have initiated this process of critical thinking.